Let me see if I can get this. 226,000 miles, and it's a 3.6 Pentastar, because these things go forever. So now I'm up under the Grand Cherokee, and you know, I mean, there's a little bit of surface rust here and there, but overall, for 200,000 miles, she really does not look bad at all under here. Now it looks like we've got some moisture right up here, and I believe you can see it dripping right here off these lines, but I believe it's this transmission pan. I think the gasket on this transmission pan has finally decided to give up the ghost, because if you go up front toward the engine, those same lines are completely dry. You can follow those lines all the way up to the engine, and they're completely dry. And the back of the engine is completely dry. I can't see anywhere in here where it's leaking engine oil. So I think, and I hope, that the fluid leak is just coming from this transmission pan right here, which would be a good thing, because I have a brand new one ready to go on. So I'm going to start at the back, do this differential, then the transfer case, then the front diff, and then we'll tackle the transmission. I got a drain bolt here, which is an 8mm Allen, and the fill was up here on this side. It's also an 8mm. I'm guessing the front's going to be the same. So normally I always take the inspection cover off, clean out the bottom of the housing, clean off the magnet, you know, all that. But since this is independent suspension front and rear, and you've got these aluminum center housings that just bolt up in there, it's designed quite a bit differently. So obviously that's going to be a no-go. Just going to do a drain and fill, which should be a whole lot faster. I did crack the fill plug loose first to make sure that it would come out. Oh man, I dropped it. And the axle fluid that's in there is honey colored. It actually doesn't look bad at all. Go figure. So, you gotta get your hand in here above the exhaust to get to the fill plug. Once you take the fill plug out, it'll drain a lot faster there. So I'm going to clean this up and just put it right back in. I don't know if these plugs are magnetic or not. I think it is, because it looks like it's got a little bit of sludge on the plug there. So I'll clean that up and put it back in real quick. But yeah, this is real easy. Now up front should be just like this, except we'll have to remove a skid plate up front. By the way, the manual calls for 75W85 fluid, which is really hard to find. You can use 75W90. I'm sure it will be totally fine. So I bought some Valvoline full synthetic 75W90 that I'm going to put back in here. And the great thing about the Valvoline is it comes in pouches, which make it much easier to put the fluid in. You'll see that in just a moment. Here's the gear oil pouches that I got. You can see how they're flexible pouches. The great thing about that is when you're filling up these differentials, it's very often difficult to get a bottle up in there in those tight spots. So these flexible pouches like this make it super easy. So the manual says that both the front and the rear differential take 1.5 quarts of fluid. So I bought 2 quarts for the front and 2 quarts for the back. That way, you know, I've got plenty. And basically all I'm going to do is start squirting it in the fill hole until it dribbles out. As soon as it starts dribbling out, we'll put the plug back in it. This one will be done. We'll move forward. Easy peasy. I got the rear done. I was looking at the front differential, and the cool thing is it looks like you don't have to take the skid plate off. Get this thing to focus, because there's your drain and there's your fill. Right here, easy access. So we can leave this skid plate on. Cool. Like I said, they're both 8 mils. We'll go ahead and knock this one out real quick. It's really straightforward and easy. All right, got the front diff buttoned up, and now I've moved on to the transfer case. So this one is pretty easy. Again, you can see the drain port right here, and the fill port is right up there. Might have to use like a real Allen key instead of my electric ratchet to get to this one because of the clearance with the exhaust. But other than that, this looks like a piece of cake also. Now the transfer case in this model, this has got Select Track 2 system in it, and the manual says this takes, let's see, what is it, ATF plus 4. So that's basically the transmission fluid that Chrysler used to use in the transmissions years ago, but they still use it in the transfer cases. So get you some ATF plus 4, fill that up. I think it takes 2 quarts. So now we're going to move on to the transmission. So I moved the cross member out of the way. You can see it laying down there. I just used an air impact and zip, take those bolts out. And I've got a, oh, it's too bright. You can see I've got a jack stand here under the transfer case to hold all this up. But once you get that cross member out of the way, then the bolts are really easy to get to on the transmission pan. So it's well worth it to do that. You've got a drain plug right here. Sorry, it's hot out here today. I'm kind of worn out, but we're going to pull this drain plug, drain all the transmission fluid out first. Then we'll go around and zip out the bolts with an electric ratchet. Take the pan down, put the new pan back up, because these 8-speed Jeep pans have the filter built into the pan. So I'm going to put a whole new pan on there with a new gasket, button it back up, and then we'll start filling her up. Now, for this, I bought Valvoline MaxLife Full Synthetic, because that fluid was a lot cheaper than the Mopar fluid, and it is recommended for this specific application. So should be good to go. Transmission fluid looks pretty dark and nasty to me. It's got a little bit of a honey color left to it, but I don't know, man. It's too bright. It does look dirty. Certainly can't hurt to swap this out. Regardless of what Jeep says, I do think it's going to be a good idea to put fresh fluid and a fresh filter in here. Now the pan that I bought to replace this with has a drain plug just like this. I think if you buy the Mopar OE pan, I think the new versions have done away with that drain plug. So I bought the Dorman pan because I wanted to keep the drain plug. I probably won't ever drop the pan again. So from now on, since it's going to have a fresh filter in it, I'll probably just do drain and fill from now on, like every 50,000 miles or so. So it's great to have all that maintenance done. Like I said, Mopar ATF 4 is what I put in the transfer case. And a Valvoline MaxLife Full Synthetic is what I put in the transmission. Now it ended up taking about 5 quarts of the MaxLife to top off the transmission. Once I got the new pan on there, I basically filled it up till it was dribbling out, put the fill plug back in, start the Jeep, run through the gears. If you put it in manual mode, it's easy to get to second gear. You kind of want to put it in first, run it a little bit, go to second gear, run it a little bit, back to first, reverse, kind of go back and forth a little bit. And it's easy to do that if you put it in manual mode, so you don't have to rev it up so much to get it to upshift. But anyway, run through the gears. Make sure your fluid is, I like to have it around 90 degrees. It can be 100, 110 and still be in that range, but fluid around 90 degrees, and then raise the Jeep back up, pop the fill plug back out, top it off again. Once it starts dribbling out, then you're good to go. And like I said, it took about 5 quarts to get it to that point. I'm thinking 2 to 2.5 quarts of this is what I use in the transfer case. So anyway, that maintenance is great to have done, because now I don't have to do it again for a long time. Another 150,000 on the transfer case and the axles. Transmission, I probably won't ever drop the pan again. Now I can just drain and fill every so often. So got all that done. Some of it wasn't all that easy. Those 3 or 4 bolts in the very front of the transmission pan, they are above part of the cradle cross member, and they're kind of hard to get to. But anyway, got that done. Now we can move on to some stuff that's a little bit more fun. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll talk to you later.